An absolutely crazy day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just released the newest banned and restricted update, and it is a doozy. It covers multiple formats, and they banned way more than I was expecting.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a huge installment of Mega Magic News. Wizards of the Coast went full bore today with their bannings, far exceeding my expectations, and I have to give them some credit for the choices that they have made. But before we talk about the bannings, we have to talk about something super important.
Has this ever happened to you? Your girl leaves you and your limp, weak, lame tokens.
Water Melina, no!
For some ultra amazing hard boy with the best tokens you've ever seen.
What's up, girl? You wanna lick my face? Yeah.
Show the world you matter. Get Zaximus Studios ultra quality tokens. Sleek, beautiful, powerful. They will make your friends and family finally respect you. Until December 7th, you can use the code below for 20% off.
Get these amazing tokens today. Anything else is for the birds. Now that my sponsor has shown you how to improve your life, let's go ahead and take a look at the bannings.
We're going to start out in a big way with the standard format. We are looking at multiple bans that will have a big effect. We're looking at Vivi from Final Fantasy being banned, Screaming Nemesis from Duskmourn being banned, and Prof's Eidetic Memory from Karlov Manor being banned. And there's actually some extra information in this article, not specifically about the bans, that lets you know about Wizards' design philosophy as well. So we'll get into that. But first, let's talk about the biggest ban that we're going to be looking at today, obviously, and that is VV in Standard. This card is absolutely bonkers. Generating mana based on the power of the creature that has the ability, and also, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, just boost them up. Here you go, and do a damage to each opponent. So, on the surface, yeah, seems pretty powerful. Why didn't they add a tap ability? But then you take it even further and go, oh look, Egg of the Soul Cauldron means that all of my creatures can basically get access to this ability. You get Vivi into the graveyard. Oh, did you destroy Vivi? Well, guess what? Egg of the Soul Cauldron will remove it, and now I can give this ability to way more of my dudes. Half the time, at least, you want them to get rid of Vivi. That's part of your game plan. So, when Wizards talked about moving up the ban date from the 24th to the 10th and told us to keep our eyes out that this might be a problem, I fully expected them to ban the Soul Cauldron, because Wizards has a long history of banning around the problem and hoping that the problem goes away with more cards being included. But in this situation, this is a Final Fantasy card. Final Fantasy came out at the middle of this year, right? So Wizards' normal strategy would be like, do not ban this, do not ban this. But they recognize that the power level of this card is absolutely insane. And on top of that, they probably have more cards coming up in the next few years worth of sets that they know would basically lead to the same sort of situation. So they just went ahead and said, yank it. On top of that, Prof's Eidetic Memory is part of the deck too. Now, if you haven't seen this one, you're not as familiar with it. It was an outlier that got ignored most of its existence. 1 blue and 1 for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no max hand size, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you draw more than one card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on a target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn -1. So as long as you draw like 2 cards a turn, you're going to be able to put +1/+1s on your dudes, on top of having your hand size grown. So this right here combines incredibly well with Vivi, right? and Agatha Soul Cauldron. When you go, hey, now I can put my counters on all my different guys, and now they're all VVs. So that's genuinely a problem. It's funny that Wizards of the Coast tries to downplay it like, hey, you know what? We didn't really realize that VV was just going to be so crazy. It just kind of happened. They spend more time talking about Prof's eidetic memory and Screaming Nemesis, right? They say here that Prof's memory and basically Up the Beanstalk have some similarities. They're parallels, and they've already banned Up the Beanstalk. So basically, they call them one-card game plans that provide a lot of strength over the course of the game. In addition, they're both two-mana enchantments that draw you a card when you play them. So it's hard for your opponent to profitably interact with. They've done this more and more. Basically, I put this card out, even if you destroy it, I've drawn a card, so whatever, kick rocks, chump, right? So it's interesting that in terms of power level, eidetic memory has proved itself as a strong standard engine. It broke onto the scene in a big way in the Jeskai Oculus decks and Aether Drift, and so they go on talking about it, and they said that they leave us concerned that even without VV, the deck would continue to be one of the best decks in the format, and potentially even the clear best deck. So they know when they're doing these bannings that they can't just ban the best deck. They have to basically take an axe to the forest and start chopping down multiple trees to make room, right? Like the Prof's eidetic memory, when they talk about it in this article, they literally say that the card is basically, when they first made it, they didn't consider it that big a deal. They didn't think it would be too powerful, and they literally increased the incidence of your ability to get it in packs. It says that in this article. They were just like, hey, you know what? It turns out that this card actually will be more of a problem. If you don't get what I'm saying, Wizards of the Coast track prints, and if you think to yourself all rares show up equally in booster packs, they don't. There is a different percentage of different rares, and there are certain rares that they actually print the most of. And Prof's eidetic memory was considered by them to be such a low-level rare that they actually printed more copies of it than other rares. Because they're in such a rush to put out products, they're not testing things and balancing them the same way. That actually comes up multiple times in this article. It's worth going and reading. There's a lot of information here. I'm summing it up for you guys, but they really do multiple times basically discuss how they didn't test anything. So basically, now they're preemptively, like I said, they need to take some extra action, make sure they're getting everything all at once. So they're taking action against mono red decks as well, because mono red decks are super powerful, even able to obviously not hit quite the same level as the VV decks, but they're strong enough to be in that environment. And with the VV deck being removed, this deck is going to be even more powerful. So to prevent the outcome, they're banning Screaming Nemesis, which is a 3/3 for 3 haste. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any other target. If a player is dealt damage this way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. It's so dumb. It says Screaming Nemesis is among the strongest cards in the default mono red aggro deck, and one of the most frustrating cards to play against. It single-handedly removes most counterplay against mono red by giving mono red deck a great game plan against two of their natural biggest problems: life gain and large blockers. So Screaming Nemesis can go, oh look, I can just run into your large blocker and now you'll take the damage. Also, I shut off your life gain. And it's almost like they should have known that, because they've been making this game for over 30 years. But you know, mono red is like a new thing, guys. So you gotta give them a little, you gotta give them a little bit of leeway. It's just absolutely absurd. Magic's been going for 30 years and like, we should make a card that shuts off life gain and makes it impossible to block. And it's like, won't that mess up standard? Who cares? We're gonna jam 18 sets into it. So look at this. A common element in all three of today's standard bans is an emphasis on counterplay. So they're going, yo, we've designed so much crazy, insane, broken nonsense that you can't actually do anything about it. We've made it way too easy to just run amok. There's not enough you can do in response, and the best decks will always break our metas, and there's nothing we can do about that at this juncture other than constantly yanking out cards. But it is a occurring theme in here that they just didn't consider or test the cards against other cards. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. The philosophy of powerful decks with appropriate counterplay means we need to be careful with cards like Screaming Nemesis. It doesn't mean they're going to be, guys. Like saying, oh, you know what? I need to be careful about cars and then just running out in traffic and laying in the road. That's Wizards of the Coast, right? So it's so goofy. We were just trying to give mono red decks a way to maneuver in a fighting chance. Listen, you've basically like tripled the amount of sets in Standard, and every single set has gas for mono red. All of them. It's crazy. Like, mono red is meant to be the cheap, get in, you can play no matter what, and be competitive deck. And because of that, they've put insane stuff for red in every single set. This was 100% seeable, 100% preventable, right? It's crazy. Missing on the power level of a new card is to some extent inevitable. Oh, really? Testing the cards really helps. We're going to see another card in this ban announcement today that didn't get any testing. So, it says, Vivi is an example of a card where the ramifications of an individual power level mistake were amplified tremendously by our failure to find the interaction with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Oh, a powerful mythic from a set in Standard. We didn't even bother to test it. How bad are your playtesters when they don't go, wow, look, Agatha cares about +1s and Vivi +1. Wow, look at all this. Like, it's very, very obvious. This wasn't some combo that it took people months and months to figure out, right? And look at this. Prof's Eidetic Memory is an example of a strong engine card where the ever-increasing density of strong interactions available in the format got away from us. We designed and tested the memory at a format where most of its powerful synergies didn't exist. We noticed a lack of options for Prof's card and created Steam Core Scholar to go with it. They made it well. You know, we thought that this might be medium strength and it synergizes with card draw, but our prediction was that it might show up here or there, and it was unlikely to be among the strongest decks in the metagame. But then 7 months later, when they released Duskmourn House of Horror, Fear of Missing Out showed up, and it really got crazy. And you just go, really, guys? Like, this is a Standard set that you knew was coming. These are two Standard sets that you knew would be together. This isn't even a Universe Beyond jammed in there where they went, well, actually, management told us we had to change the Universe Beyond into Standard sets. That would actually be more forgivable. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. You know, you just look at it and go, what are you doing? Once we recognized that memory had the capacity to be exceedingly powerful alongside creatures that draw cards and cheap spells that draw multiple cards, we should have considered how likely we were to make more of those cards in the future. Think about that for a second. They're admitting that we didn't really think about the fact that this card would be good with creatures that draw cards and cheap cards that let you draw multiple cards. And they also should have taken into account that in the future, they would be making cards that would let you draw cards. And that there's an extremely high likelihood that they, that they would go ahead and do this. It's so insane. Like, look at this line right here, guys. Because there weren't a lot of strong synergies with eidetic memory, we felt comfortable printing it at a high individual rate. So if you're wondering what I was talking about when I said they printed more of this, when they do the track printing, they'll go A, B, C, D tracks. It varies from set to set, but this is just an example. So A, B, C, and D tracks, okay? A, B, and C will get the same amount of printings. D track cards will be printed 20% more. So there'll be 20% more cards on the D track, and then whatever the jankiest rare in the set is, Wizards will put 3 extra copies of just that rare on each print sheet. So you end up with way more copies of that one particular rare. And for this set, that was Prof's eidetic memory. That's how clueless and out of touch they are. Remember how disappointing it was to get that when Karlov Mana came along? You're like, oh, this is like the jankiest rare in the set. Well, Wizards did that to give us garbage at the time without realizing the impact it would have. And now they've literally had to ban what to them was a jank printed at a high individual rate rare. This screams the level of incompetence that's going on. It may not be as obvious to you guys who haven't been around and don't see all these underlying signifiers, but the fact that they didn't know that and made this into that style rare is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Okay, so next up, we got Pioneer. The biggest thing about the Pioneer ban is just the fact that apparently Wizards isn't abandoning Pioneer. So Heartfire Hero is banned. Obviously, it's super powerful. 1 mana for a 1/1. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, you get to put a +1/+1 on it. You only get to do that, like, how many times? Once a turn, but still, doesn't matter. And when the guy when he hits the graveyard or whatever, boom, you do damage equals power to any target. It's too strong. It's too much tacked into one little package. And guess what? It's to push mono red. Surprise, surprise. So this is obviously a necessary ban. But again, the bigger sign is the fact that they're actually doing something with Pioneer. Then we've got modern, where nothing's going down, right? After that, we've got, I like how, like, modern's fine. Look at all these decks, guys. It's all good. Okay, where did we just jump by legacy? All right, here we go. So, legacy, right? We've got 2 bands in legacy. Entomb and Nadu. I told you guys, untested design mistakes, right? Nadu coming through is no surprise at all. This is complete broken nonsense to the point where Wizards put out an entire article apologizing for this card's creation. This card was changed at the last second and was never tested. How insane is that? So obviously it gets the boot in Legacy. But the big news is in Tomb. And the last Airbender version looks so goofy compared to the version we're used to. Okay, so Entomb is a super powerful card. 1 black instant, search your library for a card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. Insanely powerful for reanimation strategies. Go get the card that you want on the battlefield the most, slap it into your graveyard. When Entomb originally came out, most people just looked at it and went, this is garbage. I'm going to spend a mana to go get something from my deck and put it in my graveyard. Why would I even want to do that? I could just use Buried Alive and get 3. Like, it didn't get that much attention in the first place. But ultimately, it's a super busted card that lets you dig for the biggest, craziest stuff you want, and then you can just play a reanimation spell and slap it right back into play. And Wizards just keeps making bigger and crazier cards, so Entomb gets stronger and stronger. And they've been trying to ban around it, right? Like, being able to go Entomb into Reanimate was always just insane. 1 mana to get it, 1 mana to get it out of your graveyard? Nah, it's crazy powerful. So I understand why they did it. It's kind of crazy, though. I never thought Entomb would get banned in Legacy. It felt like one of the cards that define the format. So that one is a genuinely big surprise to me. Pretty crazy. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Legacy, though, because it feels like they're leaving the other decks that are just pretty strong, and they might need a little bit of tweaking, right? So we're going to see how that goes. But that's a big shift up. Vintage, there's no changes. That's no surprise. Pauper, this one's funny. High Tide's banned. You guys might remember recently we talked about them unbanning High Tide. They were like, okay, we're going to do a trial run unbanning High Tide. Well, the news is in, friends. High Tide is busted, and it's gotta go. There's actually a separate article all about this ban. You can go and read it if you want, but I'll sum it up for you. Basically, the problem with High Tide, on top of the crazy mana acceleration, is you sit there for like forever watching the fiddly blue player do his nonsense. And in a powerhouse level game, he can do his fiddly nonsense, and in a couple minutes, you're done. But in Pauper, because it doesn't, you're playing with commons, you don't have the big crazy cards. So it basically goes fiddle around with a bunch of goofy nonsense. Take 15 minutes to finish your turn, and there you go. I won. It took 15 minutes. This is the worst. So it's already, boom, High Tide right back on the banned list. So basically, the deck that they were using, the idea is you splice onto Arcane by using Psychic Puppetry, and you just use this over and over and over. So you can go tapping on tap, tapping on tap, tapping on tap, tapping on tap, High Tide, but it just play this. Just a nightmare of time wasting, right? Not surprised by that one. And then Alchemy, Historic, those are whatever, right? We're talking about arena formats, which to me is not something that's terribly important. So I will note as well, at least they finally fixed up Brawl a bit. Look at all the stuff they released into Brawl and said it's fine. They put Strip Mine in there and Mana Drain and Chroma. Strip Mine and Crucible of Worlds in Commander Light. Like, how insane is that? So that wraps up all of the ban-ins. Thanks for coming by and hearing what I have to say. Big shout out to my channel members and patrons. You guys rule, and I will see you all, my friends, in the next video. Tangerine! No! Marndi! No! Becky! Narcy! No! Jim! No!
instant,